Cupping massage is the inverse of the regular type of massage that we do where we're actually pushing down on the tissue. Instead of pushing down into the tissue, we're actually suctioning up and pulling up the tissue and the muscle, and we're pulling up all the fascia and the skin and pulling it up, and then we're either leaving those cups there in a stationary position, or we'll be moving them, and then it really will be the inverse of massage, meaning that we're using a vacuum effect and pulling everything up to loosen that tissue. Cupping's a really interesting thing. It's from Chinese medicine, and it follows the Bladder Meridian. The Bladder Meridian is a meridian that is an energy system from traditional Chinese medicine. And the Bladder Meridian starts like right here in the inner canthus of the eye on both eyes. I've got some oil on my hands, so I'm not going to touch my face. And then it travels up over your head, and then it ends up running down your back in 2 lines on either side. And then as it comes down to the legs, it goes down the backs of the legs, and then it comes out onto your little toe, to the nail bed of the little toe. So it runs all through this back part of your body. And what's interesting about the Bladder Meridian too is that it is a meridian that connects with a lot of different parts of your body energetically. There's a whole system of Chinese medicine that in the cupping massage class that we have, we'll go into. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the types of cups that we can use. So if you were to order some cups online, first of all, if you do this style with the glass cups, you would need some advanced training. And I provide that advanced training, but you really don't want to learn this online because we work with fire. And there's a lot of precautions and things that you need to know about. So I'm going to demo this today, but know that this isn't the mainstream cupping that we're going to be using when we do our cupping class at Zion Massage College. That we're actually going to be using some different types of cups that don't work with fire. One thing though that I love about actually working with the fire cupping is that in most of the traditional medicine styles that I've studied, so this is traditional medicine in China, in Thailand, in India, in Vietnam, traditional medicine in Peru, that this idea of fire and working with heat, that it is said to expel and to get rid of traditional names for pathogens. So in the Eastern traditions, they call this a wind element. So it's pathogenic wind. And fire and heat are said to work with that and work with it both on a very practical, in a practical way, you know, through heating up the musculature and things like that. But also it works with the wind pathogen, this idea of wind pathogen energetically. In Eastern traditions, we're always working with energy first. It is all of our circulation, all of our bodily processes, they work because they follow that energy, okay? So there's a saying in Chinese medicine that blood is the mother of qi, and qi is this energy, and that qi is the commander of blood. So qi is all of our kinesthetic stuff, all of our movement, and everything that really be like electrical impulse, and it would be what we would call circulation in the West, and so many more things, but it really like gets things going. And so blood is the representative word, the direct translation for structure. And so structure would be things like blood and like our lymph and even the way our heart beats and things like that. So we need the heart, we need the lymph, we need the blood, all those things to be there. They're the mother of this energy that can then act upon it, and that structure follows that energy. Blood follows qi. Qi is the commander of blood, but blood or structure has to be there before we can have qi work upon it. So always working with energy first. So I'll show you some fire cupping just so you can see it, but it's like, don't try this at home, kids, unless you've had lots of training, okay? And then you also need to have proper liability insurance to work with fire. But that is really the traditional way. So then we have some other things here. I have these twist tops that you can see here, and they're going to go ahead and they'll suck up the tissue as I twist, 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 and they'll lift the skin. So I'll demo this, if you're okay with this, on you. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and twist, and you would see that that starts to suction up that skin, okay? So suction up that skin. I'm not gonna leave it on for very long though, because this is not the primary style that we're gonna be using. Okay. All right, and then we have some suction cups, because that's what cupping is. And these are just little silicone cups that we can go ahead and press on to the body and then lift off. And remember, all of these cups are going to follow along that bladder meridian, which will run down either side of the spine. So we're going to cover that whole bladder meridian with the cups. There are 2 lines on each side, but each cup kind of, they're different sizes, but for the most part, they're going to cover the erector spinae musculature to all the way over the rhomboids, and then they'll be working down through the musculature all the way to the low back. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lift this off just by sticking my finger underneath the little lip here, the seal. All right, so the next type of cup that I want to show you guys, these are the types of cups that you saw used in the Olympics on Michael Phelps, and this is a really common style of cups to use both in the East, so both in China and also in the Western world now. And the way these work is you just simply set it on the client, and then you're going to take your pump and just pump that. You're going to be taking the air out of it and creating a vacuum, and that pulls the tissue up into that cup. Okay, if you want to take some of that pressure off, if you want to take a little bit of suction out, you'll just simply pull up on the top and release it. Okay. You can see there's a little bit of pinkness there just from that tiny bit of suction that we did. Let me go ahead and smooth out this tissue. Okay. Okay, so for my students and for anyone who wants to watch this, I'm going to show you fire cupping to start with. And then after that, I'm going to not leave the fire cups on very long. We'll work with them a little bit, but I'm going to show you the cupping style that we have right here, which is usually these types of cups. They have this top part, I'm not even sure what it's called, but this little top part that we use to suction out the air, and then we also use to allow air back in. That on this type of cup is a little bit bigger, so that's one style. And this would be by the brand name Hansel, and then there's also one called AccuZone. So then you can expect this bigger area here. So you get this type of cup. There's another one that also uses a pump, and I don't even know what the name is on this because I think, I actually don't recognize this language, but it looks like it is in maybe Arabic or someone will be able to tell me in the comments. But this is not Chinese, and it's not Thai, and I don't think it's Vietnamese. So this type of cup, it has a picture of looks like people on the African continent, and because they had a tradition of cupping there as well. And so these cups, if you get this brand though, they are not quite as strong. So they're a little bit thinner, the material, and then the little top part where you suction out the air or allow the air back in, that's a little bit smaller. And these they're okay. They're okay, but we find at the school that they break more often than the other styles. Okay. So overall, my favorite is this brand, Hansel, and then there's also the AccuZone. These are pretty much the same. So I don't think I can get down far enough to put in the other picture. Yeah, so right there. So Hansel or AccuZone. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do a little bit of fire cupping. You ready for this, Rocio? It sounds a lot more dramatic than it is. All right. Now, if you did fire cupping, again, you would want some training, you'd want some additional training, and you would definitely not want to do this off of an online video. But I will tell you a couple things that are really important. It's really important that your cups that you buy, that these are clean. Okay, so they need to be nice and clean. And you need to, not just clean, but you need to make sure that there's no lint on them at all. Because if one tiny little piece of lint catches fire off of this, you could burn your client. And so there's pretty big penalty points for that. It would be uncomfortable for them, and they would have a burn on their body. So you really want to make sure that that hasn't happened at all, and that there's no lint and the cups are clean. Also, if you don't get the suction the first time after using the fire to take out all the air, then you need to not use that cup again until it's washed and clean. So you won't be using that cup again for a second try, because invariably you're going to get some alcohol on the outside of the lip, and if you try to do this again, then you would burn your client. So the first pass, when you go in there and you suction that air out, when you take that air out and create that vacuum effect, that doesn't create heat on the outside. But if you tried it again, even if it looked like you didn't touch the lip at all, if you tried it again, then the lip gets very, very hot. So it's important that you don't use it a second time, okay, until it's very, very clean. And that would be not until you had another client with clean cups. Okay, so I have some water here to put the fire out if I need to. And then I have a little bit of alcohol here. And I have some gauze, and I have some, what are these called? Are they basically like little medical tongs that lock? So you're going to dip the gauze in the alcohol, and we're just going to go ahead and suction that air out and then place it on my client's back. And it actually feels cold, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It is. Mm-hmm. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do those. So again, suctioning and placing, okay, and it will feel cold. Let's do these really quick, suctioning and placing. Sorry, it's a little cold, Rocio. And then suctioning and placing. And then we're gonna go ahead and do a couple more, suctioning and placing around that low back. And my last one that I'm gonna put on here, I'll go ahead and take that air out and then place it right there. Okay. All right, so you can see that this begins to suck that tissue and that skin, that muscle up into the cup, and it'll continue to do that even more. This one might suck a little more, but I didn't get a great suction on that one. So then I would begin to just massage with it. I could leave them stationary if I wanted them to just stay in one place, or the other option is that I can massage with them. Okay, and you're not pushing down with these at all. You're actually just kind of keeping it stable and going back and forth along this musculature, just softening and loosening tight tissue. So you want to be able to have enough oil to do that. Rocio, does this feel okay? Does it feel like it's too much of a pull on your skin?
No.
Okay. And then just working with that. So a little bit of massage in each area. And you want to be able to, you can kind of loosen that just a little bit. You had some petechia come out really quickly in that spot. In the class, we will go into assessing each of these areas, and we'll be able to talk about some things that it means in Chinese medicine when you see stagnation or petechia in certain areas. So, but I just wanted this video online so that my students that are online right now at the school, that you will be able to see this up close instead of through our Google Hangouts class. Okay. And then this last one didn't really stick, so I'm just gonna go ahead and move it aside, and I'll use this one right here to work along the spine, just a little bit. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take this one and reposition it along the spine, and that one along the spine as well. Because we can have this right over the spine because we're pulling up. It's the inverse of massage. If we were pushing down, we wouldn't be working over the spine in this way, but this will actually be okay. All right, so while I'm doing this, I'm gonna go ahead, I'll let these stay stationary for a little bit, and I'm gonna put a few more of the cups that you'll actually be using in the class, and I'll put them along the bladder meridian right here. The cups that I have right in the center of her spine, these are following the governing vessel meridian, which goes right down the back of the body. Okay, so that's treating all of that. And in our class, we'll talk about what that means and what governing vessel does. So I'm just going to reposition these a little bit so they're all along that governing vessel meridian now. And then I'm going to go ahead and place these other cups along the bladder meridian. So just giving a couple little pumps. If you are just using these cups, then, and that's what you should be using unless you've had additional training, then you could use them to massage as well. I just wanted to show you a couple different styles. Couple pumps. If there was too much suction, you could let a little bit out, and you would just lift up on this little top here. Okay. And then you could go ahead and just do half a pump or a pump and a half so that you have the suction that you want. Rocio, make sure and tell me if it feels too tight and if it's starting to get too uncomfortable. Because we are pulling all of that skin up. And so that one I didn't, I added less back into it. So if a cup falls, you're obviously not going to use it again, and you would just replace it with another cup. Okay. I'll give it enough suction. But the point is that you can let out the suction, and you can have different variations on how tight that skin is and how much you suck it up into the cup. Okay. And then I'll put a couple right here. Good. And then one more. Okay, I'm gonna leave these cups on her back for 10 minutes. And while I do that, it's really important that she tells me if it becomes too uncomfortable. We could also add some cups right up here. Do you want them there, or do you feel like you have enough on you? Right there? Okay. So we'll add a couple up onto her shoulders. So for my students, you have 7 of these cups with a pump. And so you won't be able to right now use this many. When you do come into the classroom though, you'll be able to add more cups into your treatment if you want to. And your focus will be, for the most part, on this bladder meridian that we'll be going through again in class, okay? Or you'll be going over the, I want to say conception vessel. You'll be going over the meridian that runs right down the back, the governing vessel meridian, okay? And so now, while those are on her back, I'm just going to work on her legs. And I'll just be doing some massage. Make sure and tell me if that gets too intense for you, okay? If you want me to remove anything. I'll also want to keep my eyes on those cups in case they fall. Now, if the glass cups that you won't be working with, but if the glass cups fell, there'll be a lot bigger penalty points than the plastic cups. There's not really much of a penalty point for the plastic cups falling at all. But the glass cups could fall and they could break. And so you just want to keep your eye on them. And if they start to lose their suction, you have a couple choices. If your client wants them just removed, that area, you could do that. Or you could just use your pump and reestablish that same level of suction that you had before. So I'll just be working the legs. And the timing that I want my students to follow is 10 minutes for those cups. I'm going to go ahead and cut the time a little bit shorter just because I want to go through the whole flow with you and have you get the idea of this. Okay. So cover back over the leg. You'd work 5 minutes on each leg. And keeping an eye on those cups while we're working. And I just want to remind my client one more time that even though we're doing a video for the students, that if at any time that does feel too intense for you, make sure to tell me, okay? And then we can either make the suction not as strong, or I can just remove them. Are you okay with this pressure on your legs? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that would have been 10 minutes if we were doing it in a proper treatment. And then I would come up here and I would test everything. I'm going to remove the suction by kind of just pressing my finger underneath the lip of these glass cups. Okay. And these are now dirty, so they'll of course need to be washed thoroughly. I will usually wash these with really hot water in a sink, the same way you would wash dishes, and I'll run them also through my dishwasher. Okay, and then these cups right here, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna lift up on this little depressor, and that's gonna lift that off, okay? So pulling up to let the air back in to the cups. I'll do that here. For this cup, I'm going to stick my finger underneath the lip of the cup. With these, I lift up on that depressor. Okay, so now I just want to smooth everything over, and so we're going to go ahead and do some massage on her back. The cups would normally have been left on longer, so we would have left them on about 10 minutes for her. 10 to 20 minutes for a client is about the norm for leaving the acupressure cups on. So for this cupping session, we would have 10 minutes of warm-up massage on the back. And then we go ahead and apply the cups, and we'd massage with them for about 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and then we'll leave them on the back for an additional 10 minutes while we work on the legs. Okay? And then the rest of the work in an hour session would all be on the front of the body with our client lying supine, so lying face up. So you just divide your time. You can do as much or as little massage after applying the cups as you'd like. It actually feels really good to have all this smoothed over, doesn't it? And not just left. Okay. My timing's kind of like Trump timing, so let me start over with it. So it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 5, you know. So we don't have a lot of time to make these videos right now because we're really busy with all the online stuff, plus teaching the actual classes and a lot of extra things right now at the school. So timing, let me just tell you, start over. It will be about 10 minutes of massage for the warm-up, and then about 5 or 10 minutes of working with the cups and massaging with them. And then you're gonna leave them on stationary for additional 10 minutes while you work on the legs. And then you wanna reserve another 5 to 10 minutes for massage after you remove those cups. So then the rest of that time you would divide on the front of the body with your client in supine. And you could choose what you wanted to do. You could just work on the neck and the arms, do some compression on the legs, and then finish with some compression sweeping on the body. Or you could try to lightly get to everything, you know, and just touch on everything a little bit. It's really up to you. But you do have quite a bit of time with your client in prone with this treatment in your 55-minute massage. Okay. Okay, so when we see, you can see down here closely, on the low back, we almost see the skin blanching. And so when it's very, very light like that, that usually indicates that we don't need to keep doing cupping, but that we want to just apply heat. So we just apply heat to only this area, not to the other areas that we see, but that blanching indicates that. And I normally would have left the cups on just a little bit longer so we could really tell, but I'm pretty confident this is blanching and that some heat would be really good for you right here. Okay. Here we're seeing some pinkish tissue, things like that. That's pretty healthy tissue. And we're not seeing a lot of chronic stuff in here. The lighter stuff, we're seeing more acute type things. If it was really dark red, generally that means more of the chronic, deep conditions. Okay. And then we've got our 3 jowls, so our 3 areas of the body. So we've got upper jowl, middle jowl, and our lower jowl. And they pretty much correspond to the things that are located in that area. So everything looks pretty good in this cupping session. But for you, when you go home tonight, it would be great for you to put a little bit of heat on your low back. Because that's the only area I really see that has like clear blanching, where it actually became more white than the rest of your skin. Okay, so from here, I would have my client go ahead and I would have her turn over onto her back, and you don't need to do that right now. I'm just gonna go through it. Have her turn over onto her back, and that's where with my remaining time, I would divide my time between whatever I felt would be most beneficial for her. And I could even ask, what would you like for me to really make sure I addressed or spend time on? And then just focus on that. Always make sure that you are ending your massage with some nice grounding type things. And by that, I mean compression, some sweeping. So compression looks like this, right? So we have some nice deep compression all the way down the body. And we'd be doing this with her face up in supine. So just trying to give you the idea here. And then make sure that we also end with some nice sweeping to give that sense of finality to it. Sweeping. And again, this would be in supine. Okay. And on the MBLEX, those are often called nerve strokes. Okay, that's sweeping. And then with this treatment, we're going to end up holding at the end of the treatment with our client in supine on kidney 1, the kidney 1 point. So this is the first acupressure point with the kidney meridian. And it is found, and my students already know this, but it is found right below the ball of the foot, and it is right in the center kind of between the ball and the arch right there, kidney 1 point. It's a great point for helping your client feel balanced and for really helping to integrate their energy and to help them have a sense of connection with their body. And it also just helps them to not feel dizzy when they stand up. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I will see you guys in class.